Welcome, guys. Blade coatings. It's something that's not really spoken about that much in terms of the blade coatings that knife companies use on their knives because it just became such a huge business in terms of coating your blades where it didn't really start off as an aesthetic thing. It started off as something else. I'm sure if you look it up, you'll see a million videos about blade coatings. I personally have not really researched it up until now, and I didn't realize how many different types of blade coatings there are, different types of processes that the blades can go in to do different types of coatings. There is hundreds of them out there. I am not going to get to all of them here, of course. I'm going to get to whatever knives I have in my collection and let you know basically how some of these coatings are holding up. Possibly at the end of this video, let you know what I think my favorite coatings are. And there are even probably certain companies that actually do a better job than others, even with the same type of process of coatings that are more durable or look better or basically executed a lot better than others. Guys, I think this is going to be a long one. I think it's a great conversation to have about coatings that we don't discuss that much, and we'll be able to get an idea of what knife companies are doing with coatings these days and why you're paying more for certain knives with different types of coatings. But so please, if you can, watch to the end. I want to make this more of an interactive video. I know it's not a live video, but definitely comment. As you're watching the video, comment. Let me know what your favorite blade coatings are. Maybe certain companies that are doing certain blade coatings are doing better than others. Let me know which one of your knives basically you see as being the most durable in terms of the coating holding up. Maybe which coating is giving you the best corrosion resistance, or obviously the best aesthetic, the best overall execution and aesthetic of the knife. I would love to hear your feedback as far as what coatings are basically working for you. So now if we look at the KPL guide to blade coatings, KPL stands for knifepivotlube.com. Simply stated, it's a layer of material that is applied to the surface of a knife. Blade coatings have become a standard offering in the knife industry for both practical and aesthetic value. These coatings were originally designed to help prevent damage to the knife, particularly from rust and corrosion on high carbon steels, which is pretty much what a lot of companies are doing today, especially K-Bar with their Krovan 1095 steel. Beyond just the ability to protect your knife, coatings also offer a variety of colors, allowing knife makers and manufacturers the ability to customize the look of their knives. I agree wholeheartedly with that blanket definition because that's definitely what it is. It started off as something just to protect your blade, especially when you're using high carbon steels. They throw this blade coating on there to protect the knife from rust so you can get through a whole day, wipe it down, and it'll last you a lot longer. They are taking a step further and giving you a really nice aesthetic value. They have like kind of an artistic freedom to basically give you a certain aesthetic, but you have basically the aesthetic of this Defensa knife, and you have that the titanium nitrate coating here. It's you see how basically they gave you that copper gold type of look to the blade itself. I know you could get this all blacked out as well, but you see how it just matches the whole aesthetic of the blade. So yeah, coloring the blade or adding this obviously is protecting this. It's magnet cut already, so it is good corrosion resistance, but adding that type of coating on there just gives it the aesthetic value that they were looking for in this knife. Now, what I see with this knife market is the powder coatings are probably the knives, and a lot of K-Bar uses the powder coating. Actually, I have a list of knives here, so I want to get to the Becker Reinhardt Kukri and also throw in K-Bar because K-Bar produces for all of them, and also K-Bar produces for a lot of the professional grade Spartan blades, which is like the mid grade Spartan blade knives. So when K-Bar uses their 1095 Krovan steel, they're using something called an epoxy powder coating on most of these knives. Now, this is probably, it looks to me as being one of the cheapest ways of putting a coating on a knife, and that would basically also keep the price of the knife at a rate where it's a little bit more budget friendly. So I think that's the reason why they do that. But also it's obviously is there to protect their 1095, which is a high carbon steel. But again, you pay a little bit less for a knife and you have that type of powder coating, which comes in at a certain price point. That's the way I've been seeing it, that price point comes in with that powder coating. Some companies do it better than others. I know that there's a lot of variables there. That's why I would like to hear your feedback to let me know what companies that you're seeing that's doing a great job in terms of the longevity and durability of their powder coatings. This was made from K-Bar. It was produced from K-Bar, so it was their Krovan steel with the epoxy blade powder. This is a great kukri. I gave this thing great reviews. I think this thing did a really, really nice job. Now, this being the epoxy powder, now I did do a full review on this, so I did obviously do a lot of cutting with it. Not an enormous amount of cutting, not like years worth of cutting, 3-4 good solid cutting sessions. Now, if you notice basically the blade here, you see how the epoxy powder, you see those really abrasive scratches there. And you can see, you could even make out exactly where I was using the blade. You can see I used it here to do a little wood processing, nothing too crazy, but if you get in close, you could see even the little scratches where it was the epoxy powder was coming off. And I wasn't doing anything that abrasive here, probably just doing the wood cutting. But here I was banging into the wood, doing some abrasive stuff, cutting into tires and stuff like that. And you can see the tip, okay, from basically the penetration part of it, and you see how the epoxy powder is coming off there. That's probably the only negative that I see on this knife, is the fact that if this had a PVD coating or so one of the BLACKWASH or the oxide coatings and things like that, which I'll get to, this kind of is a trademark that I'm seeing with a lot of K-Bar manufactured knives with this epoxy coating, to have that basically that runoff on the scratches. That's just, it started off, if you saw my review, you started off as a beautifully, aesthetically gorgeous knife. The epoxy powder makes the knife looks amazing. But when you start using it and you get those scratches, that's something that really kind of turns me off a little bit, and I wish it could have been done a little bit better. But again, this is not a very expensive knife. It goes also into the cost. So I don't think they could give you the really high quality blade finishes at a certain cost, or maybe other people do it better than others. But that's just an example of the epoxy powder or K-Bar. But that's not really the case with all of their knives. So now if we look at the modified Tanto, also made from K-Bar, and it's the same type of epoxy powder type of finish. Now I also did a full review on this. This seemed like it handled itself a little bit better. Obviously, if I use it more, it'll probably, but it did handle itself a little bit better. Is there different levels as far as the quality of the epoxy powder? I have no idea. I would love to hear your feedback on that. And let me know how some of your blade finishes on your K-bars, how they're holding up. This seems to be holding up okay. I did a good hard review, not many, because I didn't want to use this that much. But you see a little runoff there, but it held up a little bit better than the Becker Reinhardt. This is another K-bar knife, just to give you an example. Camp knife, the Yados camp knife from K-bar. Jesse Yados was the designer, and you can see basically how in this one, you see a lot of runoff on this as well. And this, again, a good hard review, but nothing more than that. This is not years of work. This is only one good hard review, and you can see a lot of runoff on the blade, and it's just something that you don't want to see. You want to basically see that the knife is going to just capture that aesthetic when you first got it and just keep it a little bit longer. So that's another example of that epoxy powder finish on the K-bar. Now we're going to get into Spartan Blades. Spartan Blades does also do the blade steel on the finishes on some of the Spartan Harzy. Now this is everybody knows how much I love Spartan Harzy designs. This is the Nesmik design from William Harzy. I absolutely love this knife. It performed extremely well. And the Krovan steel, again, nothing to take away from the K-Bar Krovan steel. The 1095 Krovan steel is fantastic. Edge retention, durability, there's nothing taking away from that. Now, if you look at basically here, you notice also the same type of scratch patterns from doing the review. Does this make it a bad knife? Absolutely not. But you can see the epoxy powder finish, how it does affect basically the look of the knife after doing some use with it. All right, so let's go now back to Spartan Blades. Now let's go with another knife that is Krovan steel. This is the Spartan Harzy Kukri. Okay, again, not a review on a knife. If you want to see a review, I did a full review on pretty much everything on this table, or tables. I've knives all over the place here, guys, that I'm showing you. But again, this is the black powdered coating from Kukri. Same type of scratches. It looks exactly like the Becker Reinhardt in terms of showing the surface scratches. Does it make it a bad knife? No. It's still an amazing knife, and I could use this for a lifetime to come. Is that coating going to affect the corrosion resistance on the knife. You guys tell me. We'll see in time how that works. So far, I don't see any surface rust, but it's also still really covered with the epoxy. But there's definitely some scratches there. Not enough that I think it's going into the blade, because it's still a lot of surface there of the epoxy working. But again, the aesthetic. If you saw this knife when I first took it out of the box, it was museum quality. It was absolutely gorgeous. Still think it is a gorgeous knife. Great handle, great balance. This is such a great compact kukri from Spartan Harzian in terms of that collaboration. Now, again, I wish if they would use like a DLC coating, it would make it a little more expensive, but it would definitely hold up in terms of the aesthetic and the durability of the corrosion resistance. Let me know what your take is on these knives, and basically if the powder coating should last and how long it should last and how long it's lasted for you. But I can see basically with very just, more or less minimal use, how you can definitely see the epoxy coating is definitely showing its wear and tear with, very minimal use. So again, this is a Spartan blades. Nothing taking away from this. I love this knife, but that's just to be noted as far as the finish. This is the BK76. It's the first Magna Cut steel from Becker, and you notice they went with the stonewash finish. Now, stonewash is excellent. Notice that the stonewash is probably one of my favorite blade finishes, because it shows the less apparent use of wear and tear. Now, I did a lot of cutting with this, a lot of also steel belted stuff. If you really go with a magnifying glass, you can see a couple of little blemishes, but for most part, it's in good shape. The stonewash basically handled itself a lot well. This also being Magna Cut with the blade corrosion, not as much as one of the epoxy finishes or something like that, but definitely this is probably one of my favorite. This was a great decision at adding in the stonewash. You can see how it's holding itself up a lot better than the other knives with the epoxy finish. Now, one of my favorite companies that are basically giving you some good blade finishes are going to be Off-Grid. Off-Grid, for some reason, I put these things through hell, like I do with all my knives when I do my reviews, but the blade finishes hold up a lot better. All right, so let's go with the Tracker X2, which is now a backwash. It's a tumble backwash D2, cryogenically treated, added extra corrosion resistance, edge retention, and wear resistance. So this is the BLACKWASH. I believe they also add a little bit of a stonewash with the blackened finish. It takes black oxide coating a step further, and it's like a black oxide coating. It's oxidizing the blade, and it applies some stonewash after the coating, giving that worn type of look, which is pretty much what you're looking at here. I think that basically this type of finish is very durable, okay? Doing some abrasive cutting and stuff like that, it may not be the best corrosion resistance, but in terms of aesthetic value, I think this holds up a lot better. And you can see basically all the knives as an example. CSX2, after doing hard review, it looks brand new, and that's really what I like to see. I like to see the aesthetic is holding up, and it also aids in terms of giving you a nice smooth plane, in terms of giving you a smooth cut with this oxide finish. This is the Cayman XL, also with that black oxide finish. Still, also, you can see a couple little scratches there. A little more surface area of the knife. On this side, there's not, but it definitely holds up a lot better than the black epoxy type of powder coating. This is the Rhino version 1. Black and finish. Again, a lot of use on this knife here, and it's still held up pretty well. Now, if you look at the Scorpion and the Viper, has a BLACKWASH DLC. Now, the DLC is a diamond like carbon. DLC is definitely one of my favorites. I think it really holds up extremely well to abrasion resistance, keeping the coating on the knife from doing some normal to hard use. The DLC involves an application of a thin layer of carbon to the blade surface that is close to the hardness rating of diamonds. That's pretty freaking deep. This provides the most durable coating on the market right now. That's DLC. I agree. The black coating is non-reflective, rust-resistant, and low friction, which means it will glide onto cuts. It's got, less friction, basically, to be able to get through cuts a lot more smoothly. DLC is 100% food safe, so good food prep type of knife, and can be used in food prep applications. And I do use this for food prep. I whip this out, cut my chicken with it. I cut a lot of things with this knife, keeping it in my pocket all the time. The only drawback of DLC is the high cost. There you go. There's the cost. And limited availability of facilities that can apply this coating, making it less common than other types of coatings. DLC, because of the availability of people that are able to do DLC well, and the quality of the coating to basically protect the knife, make it less friction, food safe, and everything. And I mean, look at that. I mean, just I did a lot of use on this knife already, and it's still in really, really good shape. I'll show you another example with the Mamba, which is it's MagnaCut brother, the Mamba 3, also really good shape. Okay, steel belted stuff, and you can see how the DLC coating so far is proving to be probably one of the best coatings that you can get on the market. Higher cost, because these are not very cheap knives, but definitely higher cost, but they definitely handle themselves extremely well. So now let's go with cold steel. Cold steel is using a DLC coating, but this is the kind of like a DLC type of coating. Now this got a lot of freaking use, a lot of food prep, a lot of using it on acidy type of things, but it's still held up pretty well. Not too bad, but you can see it staining. It definitely does a little bit of staining. This is supposed to be a DLC coating, but the DLC obviously is going to wear in time. But no chipping, no scraping. It's just like kind of staining. And I'll prove that to you because the pocket knife, which is the Recon 1, also has a tame type of staining. Okay, if you hold them side to side, you can see they're both at the DLC type of coating. And you can see how they both have, try to get into the light, they both have the same type of staining, but not chipping or anything like that. Now, I've seen a lot of use on this Recon 1, and eventually it will kind of scrape depending on how much use you do it and if it hits stone or all the metals and things like that. But for the most part, with normal hard use, it really, this DLC coating on these cold steel knives is holding up pretty well. So again, a mark in the book or star next to DLC. I think DLC is still coming in as probably one of the best coatings, but let's move on with other coatings here. The elite models, okay, in with Spartan Harsey. We're going to go back to the Harsey Defensa. Okay, the Spartan Harsey Defensa is a PVD coating. It's a tungsten DLC. Specifically, it's a tungsten DLC, and it's also, this is the flat dark earth type of finish. Okay, so it's kind of like a tungsten DLC on this. Now, again, this did get a lot of use, and it's holding up pretty well. Again, this is a higher price knife. You can see a couple little surface blemishes and stuff like that. For the most part, it's still looking pretty damn good like it was when it was brand new. So I was pretty happy with how the DLC coating is handling itself here. Now, this was not done by K-Bar. This is the artisans in Spartan blades, from what I understand. And this is also MagnaCut. So being a tungsten PVD, excellent corrosion resistance, adding that to MagnaCut, this makes for a knife that it will last you a lifetime. You could use this outdoors. It'll protect your life, do whatever you need to do with it. This is a great, great freaking knife. And I sing the praises of this knife, especially basically how the materials they put together and how it worked and how it was balanced. But we're just talking about the coating right now. So far, DLC is working really well on this Spartan blades compared to the other K-Bars produced products that the finish is kind of chipping away and showing its wear and tear a little bit sooner than something better quality on this PVD. Let's go with Phobos knives. Okay, now Phobos knives uses a stonewash PVD. Again, higher price knives go with the higher price PVD coating. Calcula is the PVD coating. It's called physical vapor deposition. That's exactly what it's coating. And it's a coating that increases the wear resistance and wear and tear. PVD coating, lot of use on this knife. You can see a pattern here, guys. Look at the use in this knife. I use the knives pretty much the same, all of them. Everything on this table for the most part. And you can see how absolutely still pristine the finish is on this PVD coating. PVD is getting a lot of stars, okay, in this video as far as being a really excellent longevity, aesthetic-wise, corrosion resistance coating, food safe, scratch resistant almost. It's doing a great, great job. Obviously, is this going to wear in time? Yes. But you can see basically after the same type of use, they're still holding up. Laris is like a blackened PVD coating. Now, this showed a little bit more wear and tear, okay? I don't know if basically it's just this knife itself or just because it's got the blackened, but it is a PVD coating. Couple of little surface scratches, nothing that deep, but it did handle itself pretty well. It's still, for the most part, in pretty good shape. Tier 1 BC, which is in MagnaCut, has a tame type of wear and tear on it. So the Calcula is the best out of the three, but still, there's going to be some durability issues there, but they are using the PVD, and PVD so far is handling itself a lot better than the powder coating, and the titanium nitrate is probably up there in terms of points as well. Now let's go with Work Tough Gear, because we haven't touched upon Work Tough Gear yet. Now Work Tough Gear is mostly giving you a lot of satin types of finishes, but they're also known to give you some more of the aggressive types of finishes, like the APOC type of finishes, that grungy type of look, that like kind of like almost forced patina type of look. Now these are satin finishes. This is the little evil from Work Tough Gear. Satin finish worked itself well. You see some surface scratches, but still, gains its luster. So satin finish is still probably one of the best finishes out there. Stonewash is probably a little bit better. Now, if you look at now the Carnivore, the Carnivore is a dark wash finish that's more of like an APOC type of look. Now, these are the best finishes if you want to produce, just kind of keep the aesthetic value of it. It comes out of the box kind of looking like this. So basically, if you're doing a lot of hard use on it, you're not going to see the surface scratch and stuff like that. This finish does hold up pretty well. There's no deep scratches, and I have done a lot of use on this Carnivore from Eric Outer, designer, Work Tough Gear. Outer Limitless is the website, is the YouTube page. Check him out. Eric's a great guy. Excellent knife, this Gen 2, and this finish really held up itself well. Now, this is also the APOC type of finish. This is the Ape X, okay? You notice basically how you have that type of finish. Now, it doesn't look like it's been used because that's how it was right out of the box. So I really do like also these types of grungy type of finishes, stonewash type of finishes on these types of knives that really don't show the wear and tear. Excellent knife, and I love how it looks even after a lot of use. So this may be a finish that you may want to look for as an option with Work Tough Gear, to have something that's going to look good and give you that stained grungy look even after a lot of hard use. And I really beat the crap out of this thing. We can't forget about tops, so we have to look at the tops El Chete. Chete, probably one of the most popular knives out there, especially from tops. This is kind of like a midnight bronze. This is kind of the backwash, but in the bronze type of finish. Again, a lot of use on this thing, and it's no deep scratches. The finish is holding up pretty well. A lot of staining, obviously, but for the most part, it's still, at first glance, it still looks like it's kind of almost brand new, and it's holding itself well. So this, again, some companies probably do the blackwash a lot better than others. I think blackwash is probably up there in terms of points for me, because it gives you that stonewash type of look with the blackened type of black oxide process. And of course, you have companies that are giving you that mirror polish type of look. The mirror polish is always good for the most part, as far as still keeping that type of luster and not really showing the scratches. Obviously, if you really hold in a light, you could see the surface scratch and stuff like that. For the most part, it still gives you the nice lustrous look. So if you like the mirror polish, it's a great finish as far as holding corrosion at bay. That mirror polish type of look in terms of the using it on the grinder and stuff like that with the sandpaper, and it does protect the blade, and still gives you that mirror polish even after a lot of use. And this has been years and years of use that I've gotten out of this. Only if you go really close, you can see some of the surface scratches. For the most part, this is still a very attractive looking knife in the mirror polish. So that's an option you may want if you want something to be lustrous and glowing, basically in the light. Let me show you one more stonewash, blackened stonewash. This is the Mohawk, probably on their archive in Rosecraft Blades. One of the best knives that they made in terms of work knife. A lot of use on this bad boy. And look at that stonewash, blackened stonewash. Barely see any type of finish. So blackened stonewash definitely gets a lot of checks in this review because it really, really holds itself up well. This is interactive, guys. I want to hear your feedback. Now, if you got to the point of this video and you watch to the end, as an experiment on some of my videos, if you can put a red heart in the comment section if you got to this point, just so I know at least how many people getting to the end of the video. And obviously subscribe if you're not subscribed. A like and a share helps out a lot to this channel. And don't forget my channel memberships in the description if you want to help out the channel even more. I have 3 tiers of memberships there. At the end of the day, guys, I think the PVD coating is probably tops for me. A little bit more expensive on the expensive knives, but PVD coating is definitely worth it because it really holds the resistance to scratches and keeps the corrosion resistance going. It slides onto it makes it more aerodynamic. It's a great coating in terms of being a great slicer, corrosion resistance, keeping the aesthetic value. But I also like the black oxide type of process with the stonewash combination just holds up to basically use a lot better. It looks better after use. Now, it's about aesthetic, keeping the aesthetic of the knife when you first got it, not looking like a big scratched up mess, and also holding the coating on the knife as long as possible to keep that corrosion resistance there. PVD is also great for food prep. So I would say out of all these, I would say my favorite titanium nitrate is definitely the tinny is excellent, PVD, and the blackwash. The black powder coating is probably my least favorite. It doesn't make them bad knives, but it's definitely a cost-effective way of kind of coating the blades. Obviously, I didn't mention painting. There's people that also paint certain blades, and those you find like in kind of like bargain discount type of stores. The painted blades that obviously are going to chip a lot sooner than anything else. The ceramic type of blades, ceramic coating is okay. Good for food prep because you're not doing anything that abrasive. But if you were doing anything very abrasive with the ceramic, you're going to see a lot of scratching on the blades that go into the metal. But yeah, listen, we could go on with coatings forever, Teflon coatings. I'm hoping this was helpful to you, and I would love to hear your feedback. Like I said, as far as what coatings have been working for you and what companies you think are doing a great job with certain types of DLC or even the black powder coatings, maybe a little bit better than K-Bar. Wanted to just get this video out there, guys. Let me know what you think as far as being your best coating and what's been working for you on your knives. Let's keep the conversation going.